All right, let's set the scene. The year is 1993. Microsoft, they're at this massive crossroads, right? Making a real bet-the-company decision that is going to define the next decade of computing. And right at the heart of this huge gamble, a seemingly minor database update, SQL Server 4.2. Now, on the surface, yeah, it looked like just another version. But underneath, it was basically a declaration of war.
Welcome back to Database History, everyone. This is exactly the kind of pivotal moment we love to dig into. See, the story of SQL Server 4.2, it isn't really about the code, not at its core. It's about a massive strategic choice, a messy corporate divorce, and really the foundation of an empire.
Okay, so let's dive right in. To really get why this mattered so much, you got to picture the early 90s. The entire tech world, pretty much, was betting on OS2. You know, that big joint project between IBM and Microsoft. But Microsoft, they had other plans. They were building their own thing, this new OS called Windows NT. And they knew, deep down, they had to choose one. This wasn't just about picking an operating system. This was about choosing a future. OS2, that was the safe bet. It was the past. Windows NT, that was the huge risk, but it was the future.
And this is exactly where SQL Server 4.2 comes crashing into the story. It literally became the battering ram for this whole critical pivot. Now here's the twist. At the time, SQL Server wasn't even fully Microsoft's own product. Nope, it was a joint venture with Sybase, built on their code. But Microsoft, they cleverly used this shared release to signal a massive change in their own direction. It was without a doubt the beginning of the end for that partnership.
And look, I can't overstate what a massive bet this was. Windows NT had to succeed. And for any operating system to succeed, what does it need? It needs killer apps. Microsoft knew this. They knew that a powerful native database, well, it wasn't just some nice-to-have feature, it was absolutely critical. SQL Server had to become the data engine for NT. It was less of a product, really, and more of a cornerstone for the entire ecosystem they were desperately trying to build. Okay, so if this release was carrying all that strategic weight, what was actually in it? What did 4.2 deliver that made it the weapon of choice for this brand new Windows NT world? You know, what's really interesting here is that, well, none of these features on their own are exactly earth-shattering. But you put them together, and they tell a very clear story. Take native support for Windows NT 3.1. That wasn't just a bullet point on a feature list. It meant that SQL Server could run faster and more reliably on Microsoft's own OS than anywhere else. That was the hook. Then you have improved stored procedures and triggers. That meant real, serious business applications could actually be built on this thing. And that early ODBC support? That was basically an open invitation to developers everywhere, saying, hey, come build on our platform. We're making it easy to connect.
But the core tech, that was only one piece of the puzzle. Version 4.2 was Microsoft's first real signal to the world that they weren't just playing around in the departmental server closet anymore. Oh no, they were coming for the enterprise data center. This was them planting a flag right in the heart of their competitors' territory.
And this right here, this shows you that ambition perfectly. That replication preview, that was basically a promise of high availability, something every big corporation craved. Better backup and restore utilities? I mean, that's just table stakes if you're running a serious business. But the real giveaway, the thing that really showed their hand, was the security enhancements for NT domains. This was Microsoft screaming from the rooftops. Our database and our OS are not two separate things. They are one single platform. Buy into one, and you're going to want the other. And this timeline, man, this really puts the whole story into perspective. For a while, the partnership with Sybase was a huge success for both of them. But Microsoft's ambition for NT, it was a wrecking ball aimed right at that relationship. SQL Server 4.2 is the exact moment of impact. It is the very last release where they share any code, any DNA. After this, the two companies go their separate ways, the code gets forked, and they become fierce, bitter competitors. Just a truly pivotal moment in database history. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. SQL Server 4.2 isn't famous for some revolutionary technology. It wasn't the fastest database out there or the one with the most features. Not by a long shot. No, this release wasn't flashy, but it was incredibly strategic. It was the quiet, calculated chess move that set the entire board for the database wars of the late 90s. And here was their three-step plan. Simple and brilliant. Step 1. Align. Tie the database directly to the fate of their new operating system. If one wins, they both win. Simple. Step 2. Integrate. Weave them together so tightly that if you chose Windows NT, choosing SQL Server was the obvious, almost frictionless choice. And finally, Step 3. Dominate. Use that powerful 1-2 punch to just dominate the market. I mean, it was a brilliant and really aggressive strategy.
So, okay, SQL Server 4.2 laid the foundation. It was the big strategic pivot. But what did they build on top of it? What came next on this road to dominance?
Well, that story, that's for our next installment. Next time on Database History, we are jumping forward to SQL Server 6.0. This is the first version built entirely in-house at Microsoft, post-divorce from Sybase. And believe me, that is when the gloves really come off. That's when the huge strategic bet they made with 4.2 starts to pay off in a very, very big way.
Until then, pivot with purpose and keep your history transactional.